All right, last class of the day. And then you got your just for fun coming later. But so last week I said I had to kind of change directions. Obviously, things are a little bit different than being in the classroom. And I had mentioned that one of my favorite things to teach in the past has been Greek mythology. So we're going to do a little literature unit, which is very different than what we've been doing so far this year. But I think it'll be kind of fun. I think Greek mythology is fun. It's mythology, so it's weird and it's crazy, and there's fighting, and there's magic, there's, I don't know, all the things that, as a young person, generally you find pretty entertaining. So today I'm going to start out with an introduction to Greek mythology. So how did the Greek gods and goddesses even come to be? And some of you may already have lots of knowledge on the Greek gods and goddesses. For those of you that don't, hopefully you learn a lot from the next few weeks that we're doing this. So in our introduction today, I put in, it says lesson 1, there's a reading in there, lesson 1, Introduction to Greek Mythology, which I'm going to read to you here in just a moment. If you feel more comfortable just reading it on your own or with a family member, that's totally fine. I'm just here to read for you if that's what you would like to do. So you can either read with them, read with me. You can pull up the document and read along if you want. That's entirely up to you. But the questions that you have on the Google form that I sent you, there's just a few questions. They do have to do with the reading. So as I had mentioned, and we're still working through the process, we're going from e-learning to remote learning here. And that's supposed to happen and take place sometime this week. Keep in mind, teachers, administrators, and everybody are doing 100,000 things to try to make sure that everybody gets what they need, and that you're learning and all that good stuff. So things are going to change a little bit. I am slowly going to start putting your lessons in the classwork portion of the classroom. I've been posting everything on the stream just to keep it all in one place. But for the sake of letting you know when due dates and things are, when I put an assignment on, I'm going to start putting that in the classwork portion, and then only putting for fun videos and any other resources and things that I have in the stream. But continue to, comment and share and all those types of things. So that'll change a little bit. I am going to be following up with you guys to see where you're at. If I don't get things turned in from you, then I'm going to be reaching out to you to see if you need help with the things that I'm assigning, or if you need any other resources. So in that regard, things are going to change a little bit. But we'll get there. We'll just take our time with it and it'll be all right. I don't think there's any reason to freak out. So we'll be good. All right, so let me get going on this reading then. Introduction to Greek mythology. So your reading looks like this. Has a little Greek statue. And here we go. I'm going to start reading. I may stop as I do when I read, you guys know, and explain things as we go along, okay? So up at the top it says myths. The word myth comes from the Greek word mythos, meaning story or speech. It's often the word used to describe a story involving supernatural elements that conveys a moral idea or explains a natural phenomenon or unravels the mysteries of the past. So a lot of what we're going to be reading is they're supernatural type of stories, which is right up some of you guys' alley. And a lot of times, although it may seem like kind of a silly, definitely fictional, mythological story, there is a reason for it. It'll explain something that happens in nature or some kind of moral idea. And I'll explain that as we start reading about some of our gods and goddesses later on. The ancient civilizations of Greek and Rome left behind many myths that represent their ideas about religion, history, and the world. Greek mythology usually begins with the creation myth, explaining how the earth was formed. So if you think of this like like Christianity, in Christianity they have a Bible and it explains how the world was formed. Well, Greek and Roman myth does the same thing. They have their way of explaining how the world was created, and that's what this reading is. History. The Greek myths we are familiar with today are the product of generations of storytelling. The ancient Greeks were polytheistic, which means they believed in the existence of many gods and goddesses. So polytheistic would mean that you believe in many gods and goddesses. The Greeks believed that the gods had enormous power over the world and that they controlled nature in all of its forms. Cities held festivals in honor of individual gods at various times of the year. At many of these festivals, poets would dramatically recite the stories of gods' adventures. The gods and goddesses were a major part of everyday life in ancient Greece, and each god had a particular role. The Greeks believed that the gods lived on Mount Olympus, a real mountain in the central part of Greece called Thessaly. The gods could leave Mount Olympus and go anywhere, often taking on human form and walking among the people. The gods often married each other, and many had more than one spouse at a time, and sometimes the gods even married their siblings or their parents or their children. All right, so the origin of myth. One of the earliest myths is the creation myth, or the creation of the earth. It tells how the earth and the first gods came to be. In this creation myth, the development of the earth starts by describing the universe without form. It was nothing. There was matter, but it was unorganized, shapeless, and mixed up darkness. The entity was ruled by a god called Chaos. So you imagine an emptiness, black emptiness of matter flying around, unorganized, dark. That was called chaos to them. Some myths say that the world began when chaos yawned, which produced Gaia, or Gaia, the earth, sometimes spelled G-A-E-A. So Gaia came along and she would have been Earth, or like Mother Earth. Other myths say that chaos divided the matter into earth, sky, and sea, and that the goddess Gaia came into being without being born to any mother or god. Most all myths say that Gaia helped populate and rule the magnificent new world. Then she gave birth to Uranus, ruler of the sky. Gaia then had children with Uranus, and their first sets of children were all monsters. So the earth, Gaia, had a son named Uranus, then had children with the son. Remember, this is Greek mythology. And all of those children ended up being monsters. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different monsters in Greek mythology too. The Titans. So Gaia and Chaos eventually produced 12 children, 6 male and 6 female, that were called the Titans. Uranus was constantly afraid that the Titans were going to overthrow him. So Kronos, the youngest of the 12 Titans, eventually killed and overthrew Uranus and was named king by his siblings. After Uranus died, Gaia and her children were freed. The Titans and Gaia's original monster children were reborn. Because of this freedom, the Titans made Kronos their new king. Kronos then married his sister Rhea, and they ruled over the universe for eons. Okay, so we started with Chaos and Gaia, okay? And then they had 12 children. And because Gaia had already had Uranus of her own, who wanted to be in control, Kronos, the youngest of the 12 children that Gaia and Chaos had together, overthrew him. And so now the ruler of all of Earth is this character Kronos, which you may have heard that name in Greek mythology before. So big player here. All right, so the birth of the Olympians. Now remember, the Titans were the children of Gaia and Chaos. When Kronos came to be, then come the Olympians, which you're a little more familiar with. So after the death of Uranus, the world was at peace. One day, Rhea announced that she was pregnant. Kronos began to worry that his children would overthrow him just like he overthrew his father. Because of this fear, when Rhea and her first baby Kronos when Rhea had her first baby, Kronos quickly ate it. This happened 5 times, and Rhea vowed to get her children back any way that she could. So in Greek mythology, it's said that each time that Rhea had a child, Kronos would swallow the child whole for fear that one of his children would overthrow him someday and rule the earth. So by the time Rhea discovered that she was pregnant for the 6th time, she devised a plan to trick Kronos and save her 6th child from being swallowed whole. Rhea pretended to give birth, but took a large stone and wrapped it in a baby's blanket. When Kronos came to gobble down the newborn child, Rhea gave him the wrapped up stone. He swallowed the stone just like he had done with his other 5 children. The pregnant Rhea then ran away and hid on the island of Crete, where she gave birth to a son whom she named Zeus. Now, this is a character that now you're probably becoming a little more familiar with. You've probably heard the name Zeus before, so Zeus was the one saved son of Rhea and Kronos. And we probably know, from past readings or cartoons you've seen and that kind of thing, that Zeus will eventually do the same thing that Kronos once did and overcome his father. So anyway, let's keep going. He was a beautiful, strong baby, and Rhea knew that she knew he would be a powerful god. Zeus grew up away from Kronos, but he later came back acting as his servant. One day, Zeus brought Kronos a cup of wine, which contained a special potion, which made Kronos so ill that he threw up all of the children that he had swallowed before. The children emerged from their father's stomach as fully grown adults, and their names were Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia. All names of the Titans, or of the Olympians rather, or the Greek gods that we're familiar with. So this happens, and then there's this war between the Titans and the Olympians. This young generation of gods fled to Mount Olympus to escape the wrath of their father, and because they claimed Mount Olympus as their home, the young gods were called the Olympians. Okay, so remember that Kronos was one of the Titans, and then he and Rhea had the children that he swallowed and now has thrown back up, and they are now the Olympians. The Olympians declared war on Kronos, and with the help of Gaia's monsters, the Olympians soon forced the Titans to surrender. The monsters made some of the Olympians' special weapons. Zeus received a lightning bolt that could be thrown far. Poseidon received a trident, and Hades received a helmet that could make him invisible. After the war, the Olympians sent most of the Titans to Tartarus to be locked up for eternity. Some of the Titans, like Atlas, received special punishments. So the Olympians, Zeus and Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia, they have overthrown Mount Olympus and defeated the Titans and have sent them to be locked up in the depths of hell, basically. So now the gods or the Olympians are the ones that are ruling. Kronos, the former ruler of the universe, was not sent to Tartarus with his siblings. Instead, he was sent to live on the island of the dead, where he stayed forever. After all the punishments were handed out, Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon cast lots, or made a bet, to determine who would rule each part of the world. Hades became the lord of the underworld. Poseidon gained control of the seas and all the waters on earth, and Zeus became the lord of the sky. Mount Olympus became the home of all Olympians, and all the other gods were also given jobs. Once the Olympians had taken on their new roles, they too had children. Some of these gods were born under rather extraordinary circumstances. Athena, for example, was born out of the side of Zeus's head. Although Mount Olympus is an actual place that humans can visit in these stories, it is a mythical place that humans cannot visit. From the height of this great mountain, the new rulers could look down on all of Greece and keep watch over the world for the control of which they fought so hard. All right, so that was basically an idea to give you or to let you know how the Olympians or the Greek gods and goddesses even came to be. Um, I have an assignment for you the next time we meet for English. I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking on video as I've done this time, but I'm going to have you do a little bit of research on each one of those gods and goddesses um, for sort of a little project. So that's coming, and it's pretty interesting because you get to see, you know, what they rule over, and what their special tool is, or a power, or whatever. But for now, what I would like you to do is just to make sure that you look at that Google form and complete those questions that are on there. If there are any questions that you're really just not sure of, remember that you can send me a message in Classroom, or you can send me an email. Don't hesitate to ask for help when you need it. And that's all I have today for English. So I will see some of you tomorrow for math, and I will see all of you, I guess I'll see all of you a little bit later for Just for Fun. All right, that's all I got. See you guys later.